For decades, I struggled to speak what I really felt because at some point in my early life journey, I learned that my feelings and what I attempted to give voice to was not received well or reflected back to me in a way that felt good, right? It's a pretty common experience. So today we're going to explore the multidimensional aspects of individual truth and expression with insight that touches on physiology, energy biology, psycho-emotional and spiritual development, as well as symbolic truth. So if you find value in this content, please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to go deeper on this or any other topic, please check out my offerings in the description box below. And if you're navigating your own journey with voice and expression and embodiment, please explore my free Calm Knowing meditation sequence that is also linked below. So first, we're going to explore this part of the body and energy field, the high heart. What is the high heart? Many people don't even know that this energy center exists, right? However, you've likely felt it quite powerfully your whole life. It lives between the heart and the throat, and it aches when truth is withheld, when compassion is compromised, or when meaning is confusing, contradictory, or missing altogether. The high heart is a very subtle center. It's smaller than the main 7 centers, but very powerful and life-altering in its effect. Biologically, it's located just above the heart center, behind the breastbone, and just below where the collarbones come together. And it's associated with the thymus gland. It is often described as the bridge between the will and the heart, the mind and the emotions. It's pink and linked to the fire element. And it governs higher love, not just romantic or familial love, but universal compassion, spiritual connection, and our sense of purpose. So what is the symbolic and functional role of this center here? Well, this is the energy center of meaning and the place where intention is born. It combines the energies of reason and emotion and channels that energy, balanced or unbalanced, through the throat so it becomes an expression. It's also a place of remembrance. It's said that the high heart safeguards your soul's records, linking you to the past and the future, knowing your Akashic memory. And that's why you may feel a subtle ache here whenever you're in the process of making major life decisions or contorting or disguising your truth to be palpable to others. It's here where we register the tension of self-abandonment, of modifying yourself to fit another's or the world's standards of acceptability, and hence where too much compromise becomes resentment. So how do we know when it's balanced versus when it's blocked? Well, when this energy center is open and balanced, we're grounded in your physical reality, humanness, and the day-to-day lived experience of being here on planet Earth. But you are also very aware of the underlying and all-pervasive consciousness, and hence you are ever considering and connecting yourself to divinity. You can express love, not as an action or a performance or a duty, but as a state of flow and natural outpouring, right? You sense that life has meaning, even when it's mysterious. You speak gently and truthfully. Yet, when it's blocked, you may feel empty and disconnected, like something isn't quite right or authentic. You may feel suspicious of or afraid of the spiritual, or so attached to it that you have a hard time embodying physicality and caring for your own body and life. You may feel like your voice has no carrier frequency or a safe place to be heard. You may be very careful, too careful, of the words you choose, to the point of not risking putting your thoughts and feelings into words at all, or that life itself has no meaning, significance, or point. And what's the point of all this, right? Shame, trauma, and fear tend to pull back and be held in this center because they've taught us to mistrust and disconnect, or not accept the part of ourselves that has a clear inner knowing, right? That truth is free flowing and of the love that is your unique expression and highest truth, right? Question it. In this space, we begin to detach from ego personality driven power, the kind that demands and performs, and we instead move into purposeful soul power. We become aware of and determined to live in accordance with our soul contract intention, rooted in integrity. Now let's move on to the fifth center, or the throat chakra. If the high heart is where we recollect purpose and intention, then the throat is where it gets its voice. It's here that emotion, will, and energy begin to shape into form through vibration, word, expressions, creative or repetitive, and the power of choice, right? The core function and alignment of the throat center governs truth and integrity and the creative power of sound. It's also where our personal will lives, and when it's aligned, it channels energy and rooted strength straight through the center of the skull to the crown, connecting you with a higher will. The throat sits between two minor centers, the high heart and the rarely spoken of Alta major, or mouth of God, at the base of the skull. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later in the video. But this center, as all centers, carries very deep developmental roots and karmic imprints. How we were received as children, whether we were encouraged to speak, to sing, to express, and how we were responded to, right? Were you silenced? Were you mocked? Or were you ignored? All of these experiences leave deep traces and modifying imprints. And this center shapes our self-concept, not just how we see ourselves, but how we present ourselves based upon how we anticipate being seen or received, and how we adapt or distort our expressions in response to others' interpretations, right? This is where a very particular kind of karmic entanglement lives, that of how we perceive ourselves based upon how people respond to and perceive us, right? Throughout all the ways of expressing ourselves verbally and creatively. And if you want to explore that topic more, I have an entire video on karmic entanglement, and you'll find the link below. So this is where cognitive dissonance lives and is born and contributes to various forms of self-betrayal and how we show up for and express ourselves, as well as our ability to embody pure and true self-expression, right? What is being mirrored back to us, and how does it make us feel about ourselves? This is where we come to know and must accept that to speak from alignment is to risk being misunderstood and even rejected. But to contort ourselves and edit our truth to avoid that discomfort, while seemingly wise, comes with a high price. It fractures the connection between inner truth and outer action. And every time we choose to suppress or modify our voice, we're choosing something which alters and distorts our energy vibration and flow. That's the great paradox here in this center. Choice. Whether through silence or speech, we are constantly exercising power through the act of choosing, and every choice shifts our resonance and deeply palatable energetic appearance in this world. So, what are some of the signs of imbalance in the throat center? Well, when this energy is blocked, we may feel tightness in the throat or jaw. That's pretty obvious. But there's also a deep resistance to or difficulty in making choices, right? Wishy-washiness and indecision move through this location. Creative energy feels messy, disjointed, uninformed, unformed, or entirely missing. We hesitate, we people please, we overconsider things, we have option paralysis. We may stall in a fog of indecision and call it intuition or waiting for a sign, right? But really, it's a fear of being wrong, of making a mistake and suffering the consequences, which is why Carolyn Mace says that the fifth center resonates with the emotional and mental struggles involved in learning the power of choice and moving that out in the world, right? We begin believing everyone else holds power over us, right? And in the family dynamic, this is a really valid lived experience. But then as we grow and mature, we come into the understanding that only we have power over us. However, eventually, if we're evolution minded, right, we ascend into realizing that true authority arises only from aligning with a higher divine will. This is the path of the throat. From confusion and dissension at odds with other to clarity and sovereignty in alignment with the higher self, God, or the universe. From distortion and disconnection to coherence. From speaking about truth to being its vessel and channel and voice. So why can it sometimes be so hard to speak? I have to admit, when I was contemplating the question, I almost completely froze up, which feels totally fitting. So this is the part of the journey where so many of us get stuck, not because we don't have something to say, but because at some point we learned that it wasn't safe to say it. I seem very adept with words now, and I have always been, actually, when speaking with myself or when writing. I'm a very prolific writer. But when it comes to speaking with or to others, everything changes. The energy starts to break apart and become diverted, right? And this is because I remember as a child, I wanted to speak. I had so much inner life, so many ideas, emotions, and truth, just wanting to birth forth, right? I had so much enthusiasm. But I learned very early on that words could be dangerous. I might not be believed. Even if I told the truth, I could be accused of lying and get into trouble. Two people's version of the same event could vary widely, right? And that words could be twisted, misunderstood, and used against me. That my brilliant, exciting inner life that I wanted to share, it wasn't always received with enthusiasm, right? I was told I was too loud. What I was saying wasn't true or real, or that I was silly or stupid. That what I was saying didn't make any sense, right? I hadn't really developed full command of words. So I learned to keep my mouth shut, not share my feelings or ideas, and that maybe they really weren't true, right? See, I started to doubt myself, concluding that I was somehow maybe not connected to reality. Everything was thrown into question, that my inner world didn't matter, that I didn't matter, right? See how that happens? Language could betray me or be misunderstood. Sometimes I'd open my mouth and nothing would come out. I'd freeze up, or I'd say something and immediately wish that I could take it back. I learned to keep things to myself. And you know how the saying goes, right? People don't trust the quiet one. You look out for the quiet ones. They must be hiding something, and of course it must be bad. My thoughts, ideas, and feelings had no place to land, so I learned to keep them inside. Not because the words or truth was bad, but because I didn't want them and it to be butchered and then thrown back at me. So it's best not to say anything. Right? But over time, that becomes a kind of self-erasure, right? Not all at once, but in tiny ways, moment by moment, until you forget what your truth even feels like. So I spent the next 3 decades exploring, discovering, and unwinding and dismantling all that. And now, well, here I am. This is why speaking from and through the high heart and throat requires so much tenderness. Because for many of us, silence wasn't peace, right? It very much is now, but back then it arose from repression and a survival mechanism. And reclaiming your voice, it's a multidimensional, layered, and sometimes very challenging trial and error process that starts with remembering that the truth is not dangerous, it's sacred and real, even if it's not received well. So if you're connecting with this, if any of this is stirring something from your own life experience, please share it in the comment section below, because a story from your life could very well assist in the healing and awakening of another person. And we're all here to support each other in this process, okay? So what are some of the practices you can engage in for opening the high heart and throat? Gentle daily check-ins, right? You can ask yourself a series of questions or journal about it. Did I modify the truth today or speak out of habit to accommodate another or avoid conflict? Are you able to express yourself honestly and openly when you need to? If not, why not? Like, what holds you back? What are you afraid of? What fears do you have associated with divine guidance? Do you pray for answers, assistance, clarity, or direction? And do you act on the answers you receive, or do you doubt you heard it right? Or maybe you didn't get it at all. Or maybe you modify it to suit your perceived current comfort level, or you put it aside together, like, I can't do that right now, right? That's not gonna work. You can use compassion key statements. So close your eyes and take a nice deep breath and repeat out loud after me. I'm so sorry you thought your voice didn't matter. I'm so sorry they made fun of your feelings. I'm so sorry they called you too sensitive. I'm so sorry they told you were weird. I'm so sorry they insisted that you were just making it up. I'm so sorry they told you had an overactive imagination. I'm so sorry they twisted your words. I'm so sorry you were misunderstood and it hurt. You can also engage in body-centered awareness and feeling-based practices. So put a hand on your high heart and throat or on either side of your neck, and you can begin making slight movements forward and back, right? Shifting your head about 1 to 3 inches either way. And notice how your neck muscles move, right? And then notice how the tongue sits in your mouth, how it reacts to the movements at the back of your throat. And now settle into a balanced posture and start taking very slow, mindful swallows. And do it again. Where does this swallowing reflex begin and end, right? So do it again. This time, keep the intention to swallow in the mouth for a little while before you actually engage the swallow. And notice how the saliva increases, how your tongue moves in the mouth against the teeth or against the roof of your mouth. And how the energy shifts to the back of your mouth as you're ready to take that swallow, right? And how the fluid in the air moves in your ears, just as your tongue and throat engage for the full swallow. And notice how it feels moving down your throat and neck. And keep repeating these intentional, slow swallows, focusing on the sensation further and further down with each swallow. So where does the sensation end? For many of us, it will dissipate here at or just below the collarbones, right? Okay, so take a nice deep breath. So we can also engage in vibrational practices like humming, toning, whispering, or soft vocalizing. You can take time with this, like do it after the video's over, right? You can explore all the different pitches and notes and where you feel them in your throat and neck and body. You can tone the vowels. A, I, O, in different ranges, and take note of the effect on your energy field and thought field, right? Because it's going to start to affect your whole vibratory sense. When you do this, does it bring up any memories or emotions? Maybe it puts you in an altered state, right? This is potent and very liberating territory. And this is a really powerful way to, or several of the ways that you can explore and discover and guide yourself into the alchemy of alignment. And it will greatly assist in experiencing a whole new way what it means to let the truth move through your throat, right? It breaks up the energy here fully and without contortion, right? And it shifts that inevitably ripple through life when that happens, right? And you'll see it in your ability to speak from wholeness and honesty while also staying really grounded and empowered. Because something really new and exciting starts to happen when you begin speaking from the high heart and when you move the energy through this center. Not just from the mind or from the emotions, but from a deeper wholeness and awareness, from purpose and intention. It will shift everything. When you start speaking clearly, without shape-shifting or managing others' perceptions or emotions, people's true colors will really come out, right? Some people will lean in, some people will pull away. Some won't know what to do with this version of you that's no longer shifting and switching, right? Pleasing and pretending. And that's okay, right? Because when you speak your truth, you become the clarifying force in your own field. But make no mistake about it, right? There will be energetic consequences to this energy shift in your high heart and throat. It won't always be pleasant or easy. But rest assured that the people who pull away are actually making space. They're clearing the field so something more aligned can find you. Because when your voice and your words align with your soul, your energy becomes coherent and magnetic. It draws in what matches. And you will increasingly find relationships, opportunities, and next steps start showing up and arising that reflect who you really are and support your burgeoning becoming. So if this rings a bell for you and you've had this experience of speaking a truth and watching things in your life shift, I've got a cat here all over the place. Please share it in the comments below, right? Because there are so many unique life experiences that we can all learn from. So please contribute to the conversation. It'll help everyone, right? Because life is really a beautiful phenomenon and there is an exquisite flow to it. Staying true to your voice and depth is a practice in graceful and awkward poetic delivery. So take it one step at a time and be gentle with yourself. Now, before we close, I want to circle back to something that I mentioned earlier. It's subtle and powerful. So let's touch a bit on the sacred geometry of the body, the energy body. So first, there's a direct line from the high heart through the throat to the Alta major center. So there's a lot of processing that happens here between these three centers, right? We have a continual exchange going on, and each center is supporting and refining or distorting the energy as it moves through these centers, right? And then there's a line from the Alta major to the third eye, which passes through the pineal gland. This is called the psychic bridge, and it assists in receiving information from beyond and from the deep within. The passage through the pineal gland assists with brainwave entrainment and opening the mind and the psyche to receiving and perceiving new, subtler levels of information, right? Both of these minor centers, the high heart and the Alta major, feed and inform and support the third eye, right? You're constantly sending energy and information from your heart and lower energy centers to the third eye, which will determine what you are ready to realize and understand and receive. The high heart line to the third eye passes right through and pierces the tongue, which is the main purveyor of the throat's expressions, right? The Alta major center at the back of the head, which is also called the mouth of God, is where direct transmissions arrive, right? We have descending truths and subtle knowings. They enter maybe not as thoughts, but as impulses through the back of the head, and they move inward to the pineal gland and forward to the third eye, right? So these 3 points, the high heart, the third eye, and the Alta major, form a triangle of energy in the head. And energy is constantly moving through these points in lines, multiple directions, and ways. Sometimes all at once, sometimes in 1 or 2 branches, right? Depending on what life experiences you're navigating in your inner terrain or in your external stage play. Right? This triangle of energy between these 3 centers is alive in you right now. It's a living, breathing geometry through which your truth is realized, interpreted, and awakened. Your voice clears and your purpose moves through your life. Now that you see it, you won't unsee it. You won't be able to unsee it, right? There is now a subtle impression of this energy triangle burnt into your inner eye, right? You see it now. And there are actually many geometric energy exchanges and shapes throughout the human body and the external sheaths, right? We've got energy centers that are out here and up here. And we'll get into that late in other videos as time goes on. But for now, just notice and be aware of this triangle at play in the head and see how it unfolds for you and what is revealed as a result, okay? So if you're ready to deepen into the practice of meditation and visualization, please explore the links to different ways that you can work with me in the description box below. Each offering is designed to help you explore and embody this kind of clarity and coherence more fully, okay? May your truth and purpose become your sanctuary. May your voice find its own vibration and rhythm. And may the words you speak rise from the center of your being with grace and clarity and power. We're really covering a lot of information here in these videos. So let's keep moving forward. Let's keep the momentum flowing. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time.